Welcome back to Homeless But Human, a Christ in the City podcast. My name is Shayla, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We decided that we would turn over the microphone to our missionaries so that they could share with you some of our favorite stories from the year of 2022. We hope that you enjoy. Let's have a listen.
People of Christ in the City, people of everywhere around the world, this is David Christopher Pacheco.
Hi, my name is Kimmy.
My name is Arthur Ortiz. Been in Denver since 1973.
Okay, so let's just talk in circles for a little bit.
Just talk in circles, just shoot the breeze a little.
Yeah.
Now they see beyond what I look like. They see what my actions are and say, hey, that is a good person.
A lot of people say home is where the heart is, but my heart's in many places. It's just I don't know where home is.
Hi, my name is Grant. I'm a first-year missionary in Denver. And my favorite memory from this past year happened a couple months ago. One of my friends, Cody, was in the hospital. He's in hospice care. He's been battling cancer for about 10 years now. And me and another missionary, Olivia, went to go visit him. And we went to Trader Joe's, shout out to TJ's, to get him some flowers to decorate his room. We brought a book to read to him, and we spent an entire afternoon at his bedside talking with him, learning more about his life and just hearing more about what he hopes for with his life, the remainder of his life. And it was a very privileged time to walk with somebody who is in the process of dying, and it's a very privileged time that I don't think everybody appreciates. And getting to see him in these moments and his desire to share them with me was very rewarding and made me realize how special this mission is that I have the freedom to do that.
Okay, so I have a really beautiful story from the streets of Philadelphia. We were finished with street ministry one day, my team and I, and as we were walking back to our vehicle, I was kind of like talking to the women on my team, and we walked past somebody that I did not notice, but the two men on my team, Dominic and Jay, noticed that this woman was crying and that she had a suitcase beside her. And as we passed her, Dominic and Jay said to us, the women, they said, hey, there was a woman crying back there. Do you think any of you all would be comfortable going and talking to her? And so I kind of began the conversation with this woman whose name was Lindsay. She was on her way to rehab, and she was experiencing withdrawal when we met her. She had just gotten away from her abusive boyfriend. And she is one of the most beautiful people I have ever met on the streets. The way that she was so grateful that we stopped to help her. I called the rehab facility and I called another Uber for her to get to the rehab facility while my other two teammates, Faustina and Janelle, were tending to her, trying to get her to eat, trying to get her to stay awake, steadying her as her head bobbed. But it was just such a gift to be able to encounter Lindsay that day, because there have been very few moments in my almost year and a half at Christ in the City where I have recognized the face of Jesus so plainly. And it was in Lindsay's eyes that I saw him, and I can only hope that she saw Jesus in us and in our kindness.
Alrighty.
Quiet on set.
Alrighty, all right. So it's 11:55. We're supposed to be at Mass at 12:05. So we're 10 minutes away, finishing up Streetman, trying to get there. We're running late. And we're supposed to be back at the van after Mass by 1 o'clock. And then some guy on the side of the street stops us and asks us what we're doing because he sees that we're saying hi to everybody. We're just greeting all of his friends. And then he asks us if we're Mormons and what we're doing. We explain to him the ministry. We tell him about the faith, and then next thing you know, he won't let us leave, really. He's just dying to talk with somebody. And next thing you know, we're 20 minutes in, we've all just, decided to stay here with this man. Mass has already started, and he's been, pouring out his whole entire life, like from the struggles with prison, with addiction, his daughters, his household, just giving us his whole life story, and then incorporating all of his faith in God into that. And I just got like a deep sense of like, wow, like this man is literally a saint. Like I'm reading a saint's book right now, and he doesn't even know it. He thought he was a horrible man. He was just troubled with the position he's in, couldn't get a job. Everything just wasn't happening his way. And yeah, I mean, next thing you know, like it's been 2.5 hours almost. And yeah, Mass is over. We're supposed to be back home like a long time ago. And it was just such a beautiful moment just to sit there with him. And yeah.
So it would be impossible to pick one favorite memory from the streets, but there's some good friends we have that we see like almost every day. Their names are William and Shauna. And William and Shauna are brother and sister. They've been on the streets for, I believe, the past 8 years, something like that. But they've had just a really hard life. They still have a very hard life. But they're both just like really firm in their faith. So Shauna sits in a wheelchair. She has a really bad leg infection and difficulty walking. And so she's almost always in a wheelchair. And so a lot of times I'll like sit on the ground next to her. But this isn't the first time that it's happened. But like oftentimes when I'm sitting on the ground next to Shauna, William, her brother, will just like, he'll just say, "What are you doing on the ground? And then he'll like get out a crate that has like blankets and pillows on top of it. And he's like, "You sit down here. You're in our house. You ain't going to be sitting on the ground like a." And so I always feel like very loved when they do that. He has started calling me his little sister, which is very endearing. But I often feel like, yeah, and it makes a difference too. It's cold and hard to sit on the ground, and like I instantly felt like warmer and like comfortable sitting on that little crate. And yeah, it just makes me feel like I'm going to like my aunt and uncle's house or something every time we go to that little corner.
One of my favorite encounters from the year on the streets is with our friend Tony. We met him early on, and our friendship just flourished. He has received us very well and loved us. It's one of those nuances of Christ in the City where we go out to love, and somehow, like, Tony has loved us so much more in return. We had a picnic with him one day, and we went to Reading Terminal Market, which is just this giant market with everything you can imagine. And we went to his favorite meat and cheese shop, and he got us all of his favorite meats and his favorite cheese. And then we started walking back to the park, and we stopped and got drinks. We stopped and got bread. We got all the works. And once we got back to Rittenhouse Square, we all just sat down. We made sandwiches and just like truly enjoyed conversation over like a meal, which is so special. And for that to be given to us as a treat, like that he would buy us something like that and like provide for us in a very fatherly, in a very just like deeply loving way was such a gift. Every time I like see photos from that day, my heart is just so warm. It brings a smile to my face. We all love Tony so much.
Yo, this is Brad. I am a second-year missionary at Christ in the City. And my favorite memory this year has been really seeing the men's community, specifically the men's community of missionaries, growing together, growing in brotherhood. And there's been a couple of concrete ways that this has happened. One was we started watching Band of Brothers all together, and we've watched about half of the series, and every time we've watched it, everyone except one or two people are there because they're sick or have other things going on. And it's just been really beautiful to see the commitment of the men to watching this together and growing in brotherhood in that way. And then another thing that we've done is started doing push-ups together at night, and it's just slowly grown. It started off with just 2 of us, and now there's at least 7 of us that all get together and do push-ups together. And we laugh and we struggle, and it's just really been beautiful to see how us as brothers have been coming together to do these things, not necessarily for the sake of doing the thing, but doing it together and loving each other in it. I love my brothers a lot this year, and it's been really awesome to grow closer to them.
One of my favorite memories this year happened as I was walking 16th Street for night ministry on a Friday night. And I was walking with Grant, and we noticed this man who was sitting outside on a curb watching the Rockies game from outside of a bar. And so we decided to spark up some conversation with him. We learned that his name was Bruce. We learned that he loved baseball. We learned that just some things about his family that he decided to share with us, and we had some good conversation. And after a while, Bruce invited us to sit down with him to watch the game, which we gladly did. And as we were sitting there, someone walking by offered Bruce some pizza, and Bruce only wanted one slice, so he shared the others with us. And I just thought that it was a very simple moment to share with a friend. And I also really loved the fact that us encountering Bruce wasn't just like face to face, us talking to him. He invited us to share in his lifestyle, which is just such a joy and was a very humbling and pure moment for me, and has allowed me to really love those in a different way ever since, I was invited to share his life with him.
My favorite memory came one day on the streets. We got to take our friends Clarissa and Misha out on an accompaniment, and Nicole, who was on my street team, had gotten to grow a really beautiful friendship with them over the summer, and found out that they really enjoyed go-karting. And so we got to figure out a whole entire day where we found them on the streets, and we picked them up and drove them to a go-karting place and got to spend about an hour and a half or 2 hours with them, just riding go-karts and going to the concession stand and just kind of treating them to just some really fun, joy-filled activities that they don't get the chance to do very often since they're always on the streets. And it was just a beautiful memory because I remember the joy that they had on their faces getting to experience it. But I also remember probably even more the joy that Nicole had just getting to see them be filled up and being able to see that we were able to love them in such a beautiful way and provide some joy for them, even though their life has been very difficult. So that was probably my favorite memory from the streets on the summer, and just getting to bring joy and also receive joy just through that act of kindness.
My favorite memory from this year so far has been whenever I got to go see my friend T. She's a really close friend of mine last year, and she's now off the streets, but she's living in a extended care facility. And I got to go visit her on her birthday this year with me and a few other missionaries, and just getting to experience the joy that just my presence brought her, since I'm on a new route and don't get to see her as much. Getting to see like the depth of our friendship in fruition in a new way just from going visit her. But then the surprising thing that also makes this one of my favorite memories from this year is getting to share that joy with some of the first year missionaries and invite them into that friendship, and in a way that allows them to actually love her well in a way that I never could. So that's been a gift that I've been reflecting on a lot, and is for sure one of my favorite memories of the year so far.
So it's never really easy to choose a favorite memory when it comes to my time at Christ in the City, and especially my time on the streets. But I will say one of my favorite memories comes from spending time with the youth that live at Urban Peak. So Urban Peak is a overnight shelter for 18 to 21-year-olds, but it's also a daytime shelter for whomever needs the resources available. And it's just been the greatest blessing getting to know all of the youth that live there, because when we talk about broken relationships, there is so much brokenness in their lives and in their relationships with their parents or their family members. And so it's great just to be a friend and to listen to them and for them to listen to us as well. I love getting to celebrate their birthdays. One birthday in particular, we were able to take one of our friends to get coffee and just spend one time with her. And afterwards, she texted us and was just like, "Thank you for today. Thank you for the moments like these." And something as simple as buying someone's coffee and spending quality time with them completely changed her day, probably her week. And then she also said, next time we do this, I want to treat y'all. And I'm just overwhelmed by the ways she's able to love us. Someone who really is not super financially stable, wants to use what she has to give back to us. And it's just like this beautiful friendship of us pursuing her, but her also pursuing us. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to get to know these young people that live there.
My favorite memory from Christ in the City was kind of a two-part memory, actually, that I'd had on the streets. So on the very first day of street walks, I was able to meet an amazing man named Curtis with the rest of my street team, who was just a super generous guy and was telling us about this new job he had just got at a gas station. And so we walked with him to this job, and he bought us all slushies, which was just such a gift to see him wanting to serve us in his poverty. And I was reflecting on this a lot throughout the summer, and sadly I wasn't able to see Curtis for like the next 2 months. I was hoping to see him and just never ran into him, and I was hoping he was okay, praying for him. And one day I saw a man sitting on a park bench, kind of with his head down, and I walked over and asked how he was doing, and he said, "I'm doing kind of in a little bit of pain. My stomach's hurting a lot. I haven't been able to work as much as I'd like to, but I remember you." And I was like, I didn't really recognize him with his head down, so I just said, "Are you sure?" And he said, yeah, I bought you and some of your friends slushies at the beginning of the summer." And I was like, "No way, Curtis, I can't believe I didn't recognize you at first. Like, it's so good to see you again." And I could tell he was in a lot of pain, but he was still interested in my life. And he asked me like how the summer had gone and asked what I had next. And I told him I was going back to college. And he said, "Okay, well, let me say a prayer for you as you go back to college." And so we sat there and we prayed together, and just a really heartwarming moment. I'll never forget Curtis and just the way that he showed me so much love on the streets.
Thank you for joining us today as we just reflect on all the graces and blessings that occurred in the year 2022 and just give thanks to our Lord alongside you. And as we move forward to 2023 and look forward to all the work the Lord has in store, we would love to hear more from you, the Christ in the City family. What would you like to hear more of? What kind of questions do you have for us? And then we just thank you for all your support this past year and for being a part of this family, this movement to know, love, and serve the poor. And for that, we are so grateful. May God bless you and have a wonderful start to your new year.
Mother Teresa, one of our patrons, would say, "If I look at the masses, I will not act. If I look at the one, I will." Because of these one-on-one encounters, because of people like you stepping out of your comfort zone, this mission is spreading. This mission is making its way into parishes, schools, seminaries, and communities nationwide. We have families making care kits for the homeless, college students coming on week-long mission trips and then going back on fire to serve the poor in their cities, seminarians and small groups across the country doing Christ in the City style street ministry. This mission is becoming a national and worldwide endeavor, and we're so happy you're here. For even more in-depth Christ in the City training, videos, and interviews with the homeless, we invite you to join our known and loved monthly giving community. This is one of the most impactful ways you can join us in this mission. Visit christinthecity.org and make a monthly gift today to join our known and loved community and receive a special Christ in the City gift. Imagine with me for a moment if every homeless person had one friend who cared about them. What a difference that would make in the world. And what if that one friend is you? You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, podcast platforms. And do us a favor and go hit subscribe and leave us a review. God bless you.